Hi everybody and welcome to our assembly for this week. I hope you've all had a good week back last week at school, first week after half term, and whether you were in school or whether you were learning from at home, I hope that's gone well and that you had a nice weekend. And the good news is that this time next week, next Monday on the 8th of March, we are able to welcome all children back into school, and we're really excited about that. Not just the grown-ups, but the children that have been in school working are also looking forward to having all their classmates back. So we're really excited. It's going to be great to see everybody, and we're working to make sure that that goes as smoothly as possible with everybody returning. It will be fantastic to have you all back in your classrooms with your teaching team, you being able to work with your classmates, to discuss your ideas, to challenge each other's thoughts, to solve problems together, and to show that really good growth mindset so that we're making the best progress we can in our learning. So it's also going to be important, I think, for you to be able to talk to the grown-ups and your friends about how you're feeling as well. We want you, when you're back in school, to be feeling safe, to be feeling secure, and to be happy and ready to learn. So if you've got any worries or concerns, if there's things in the remote learning you weren't sure about and you want some help with, the grown-ups will be in school and they'll be there to help you, as always, to make sure that you're able to do the best that you can. So please do talk to the grown-ups about how you're feeling, about things that have been worrying you, and about any problems or things you need to go over in terms of your learning. This term, half term, as you know, is when we are looking at the value, our school value of respect. Really important. All our values are important, but respect is the one we're focusing on this half term. And today I just wanted to focus and think about the first bullet point on our list of things to look for to see whether we've got good respect going on within our school. And the first one talks about respecting rules, following the rules. Just want you to think, really, why is that so important? And I'm just going to get a next screen up, and hopefully that will go a bit bigger. Excellent. In my mind, why rules are so important are that actually they're there to help us. They're there to keep things fair, and they're there to keep us safe. And actually, when I was thinking about this, actually, I think the rules are really more about advice to keep us safe and to keep things fair. So those are all there to make sure that, that our school or wherever we are, whether the rules at home or when we're playing in a football match, the rules are there to keep it fair, keep it safe. And they're like advice to us. So our goal, our 4 school rules are quite simple. That I'm sure you all remember: no stealing, swearing and fighting or spitting, keeping your hands and feet and other objects to yourself, being truthful and following instructions by an adult, and respecting people's feelings and property. Well, all of those are really important in keeping us safe when we're in school, and they're there to help us. And when we return to school, we've got lots of other bits of advice when we're all back next Monday to be thinking about. And the grown-ups will help remind you, and you'll be able to help remind each other about some of those bits of advice. Things like we need to make sure we stay in our bubbles within school to keep each other safe. We need to think about making sure we wash our hands thoroughly lots of times during the day, and the grown-ups will remind us and help us to do that. And you can make sure that you do it really thoroughly. The grown-ups will be making sure that all the things you use and the areas that are like door handles and things will be cleaned throughout the day. The dinner ladies make sure that the dining hall is cleaned down between people coming in and out. So we will be reminding people to try and keep social distancing if we can, and if that's appropriate for your classes. But it's going to be really important to remember all those bits of advice, all those rules that are going to help to keep not just you safe, but everybody around you safe as well. It will be a bit like school was back in the autumn term when everybody was back in. And we did a really good job then of keeping everybody safe. So we'll remind ourselves when we come back on the 8th, those people in school will be knowing it already because they'll have been doing all those and following all those advice. And the people coming back who've been working remotely from home will all be able to help you and remind you as well. And I'm sure many of you will just remember all of those routines as well. So when I was thinking about rules and thinking about rules keeping us safe, one thing that reminded me, and it always comes back into my mind, is a story from when I was very young, about your age at primary school. And I've told some of you, I think, some of this story before, but it just is a really good example of why rules or advice is there to keep us safe. Because when I was at primary school, I remember it really clearly. One day after school, my mum picked us up in the car, my sister and I, and to take us home. But she needed to stop off at a friend's on the way home and just deliver something, what it was. But my mum pulled up the car, and as she parked the car, she was only going to go down the garden path and post this letter or envelope through into her friend's house. And she looked at me and looked at my sister, and she said, "Right, I'm only going to be a second. Please just don't touch anything in the car." And that was the rule. Really, it was a bit of advice, don't touch anything, because my mum wanted to make sure that we were both safe. And she was only going to go down to the garden path to just post the envelope through the letterbox. Well, when my mum went down the garden path, her friend had seen her come in, so she opened the door. And my mum used to like a chat. So she was busy chatting away, catching up with her friend on all the things they were discussing. My sister and I, we sat in the car waiting. It wasn't very long before I was a bit bored. And in the cars in those days when I was your age, they used to have a cigarette lighter. And I don't think they have them in cars now. But in cars in those days, you have to push it in and it would heat up and you could pull it out. And if you were somebody who smoked a cigarette, you could then light your cigarette. And we never used it because my mum didn't smoke. So I was fiddling, I was getting bored, and I pushed the cigarette lighter in. Not before very long, it popped out. So I pulled it out of its socket and I looked at it and I could feel that it was quite warm but I couldn't see it was glowing and how you would light a cigarette. So I took my finger and I just put my finger onto the end of it, and did that burn. It really smart. So I wish I'd listened to my mum's advice. Don't fiddle with anything while I'm gone. I didn't. I ended up really hurting the end of my finger, and I can remember the yellowy black burn on the tip of my finger and how sore it was. And my mum knew as soon as she came back to the car that what happened, because she could smell the smell of burning it from when she opened the car door. So I hope, not like me, I hope you do a better job at being able to remember to respect the rules, to follow them. They are advice. They're there to keep us all safe. They're there to keep things fair. So when we're all back at school next week, we look forward to seeing how well we do. Okay, take care. Have a good week, everybody, and look forward to speaking to you again next week.